Hello, everybody joining in. Thanks for being here today, and welcome to our webinar titled Actionable Strategies for Driving Tech Skill Growth. Super glad to be here with the Pluralsight team and Kaylee, who is new to our TribalHub team. So this is one of her first webinars, so you guys be nice to her, okay? We'll get started here in a second, but while we're waiting, if you wouldn't mind popping in the chat where you're dialing in from, it's always fun for me to see. I am calling in from my home office today in Petoskey, Michigan. And it is snowy and it looks just so Christmassy and lovely outside. It's hard for me to concentrate this week, I'm going to be honest. All right, Keely, do you want to hit to the next? Yeah. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here with our webinar. Oh, Oregon. Hi, Jonathan. It's nice to see you on here. Okay, so again, special thanks today to our webinar partners, Pluralsight. Our presenters are Dave Haskins and Heather McDonald. You'll learn a little bit more about them here in the next little bit. This webinar will be recorded and you'll be able to view it at any time at tribalhub.com. You'll also receive an email tomorrow that has a copy or a link to the webinar. So feel free to share that with anyone on your team who may have missed today's webinar. And just a reminder look at the learning objectives to take away from this webinar. Please be sure to use the chat or the Q&A if you have any questions whatsoever, and we'll make sure that they get answered today. And finally, our last slide is a reminder about our Cybersecurity Summit taking place this February in Florida. If you have any questions on that, you can just go to the website, tribalhub.com. And with that, I think we are going to go ahead and turn this over to you, Heather and Dave.
Great. Very excited for today's conversation. And I just want to introduce the topic a little bit. This is a follow-on from the last time we did this, Pluralsight did this, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But today, you are a tech leader. That's the assumption, or you're in technology. What's your role as a tech leader in driving tech skill growth? Now, you may think that's the learner's job. Well, we want to help you understand your role in the big picture of helping it really accelerates skill development for your team because technology skills are changing faster than humans can learn. So we've got to get better and at making this a priority of gaining tech skills and finding the best way to do that. Your role is critical. We're going to discuss that today. Next slide, please. Okay, a little bit about me. Hello, I'm Dave Haskin. I've been consulting C-level tech leaders for over 7 years here at Pluralsight in all areas of federal government in both Canada and the U.S., as well as state and local government and the tribes and academic. So I've had quite a swath of customers, but consulting with the same role over and over gives me a unique perspective. At some point, I can start to tell tech leaders what their challenges are before I even meet them based on just their title. So it's a really great experience being able to work at this level. Very rewarding to work with technology leaders like yourselves, and look forward to the conversation. Who is Pluralsight? Why are we here? Okay, Pluralsight is a tech skills development platform. I would say the tech skills development platform. We are leading in all the quadrants by a long shot. We don't really think of competition in this space because what we do is very specific. What we do is we are helping learners gain tech skills at scale and at pace. It's all about finding the fastest way to get there. What do we cover? Well, all technologies, 95% of them, whether it's AI, ML, software development, security. We cover all of the topics, and the next box, many different modalities of learning. Different learners need to learn in different ways. If you're a security professional, you care a lot about certifications. If you're a developer, you don't, and you care a lot about hands-on experiences. If you're new, you need guidance. If you're an expert, you need guidance to the exact topic you're looking for. So whether it's a hands-on lab, a sandbox, a video course, or actually having our AI guide you to content that's relevant to you, the platform that we have is designed to make it easier for the learner. And so, why are we different? We are like it's brain surgeons probably shops at Costco and Walmart. They probably don't buy their scalpels there. Well, it's similarly technologists typically need a different tool set to get answers to their question, and that's what we are. We are a skill development platform for technologists, like a medical supply company for a surgeon, and we have everything that they would need and in the different modalities, and we provide guidance and direction. But it doesn't matter what we have. None of it will matter if you're not involved. We've learned that, and that's what we want you to take away from this. So next slide, please. Okay, just in case you missed it, we've got a little link to a webinar. The last time we did this webinar was the topic was cultivating a future-ready workforce. And the point is expert generalists are better than specialists. Specialist silos are not as powerful as expert generalist technologists. You have a huge advantage. The technologists that work for you are super curious and interested and want to learn, but they need some guidance. So that's the next step. Yes, we need expert generalists. That's a critical important that you provide them some tools that they can go out and follow their passion projects, practice and play in safe environments, and also have all the tools to guide them to the content that's most relevant to them. That's what our platform does. That's why we brought this up. The next step is what's your role in the process and why should it matter? And that's why we want to talk to you about that today. Next step. I am very excited to say we've got Heather McDonald to join us. She is actually currently the Director of Consulting Services here at Pluralsight, and she has a long history of public speaking because she is a practitioner in change management. She used to be the VP of Strategy and Change in Communications for Zion Bancorp, has a long and storied career and resume, and we're grateful to have her. She's a very busy person, so thank you, Heather, for joining us, and I'll let you take it from here and we'll riff together on this subject.
Yes, super excited about this. Um, this is my winding career path. So I really love this topic about creating a culture of learning because it's really been so critical in my own career path to get to where I am today. Like, I literally started my career in retail, restaurant jobs, in cleaning a medical clinic locally. But over time, because I had opportunities to learn and grow on the job, I was able to continue to like take that winding path to get to where I am today, where I have the opportunity to actually talk to some of the biggest companies around the world about what their learning strategy is and how it ties to their business strategy. So I know the importance of what this can mean for individual people, and I see the impact that it has on businesses when we can find ways to develop these things together. So we're going to start off with a culture of learning and talk a little bit about, well, what does that even mean? It's like Dave said, sometimes people think, oh, learning culture, that's a culture expert, that's our L&D team, that's an HR problem. But really, like, even if whether you're a big or small company or an organization, your learning culture still can exist within your team and within the spaces that you have access to and that you're influencing. So that learning culture, so that we're all on the same page, really is it's demonstrating and encouraging that learning both at the individual and then team and organizational levels. It's when we create spaces where learning becomes a component of just kind of how we do business across the work that we do. And one of the things that we found with this that's really important is in developing a learning culture, it's all about helping people understand the ability. How do you learn something, unlearn something, and then relearn something as things change? Y'all are probably aware, stuff is moving fast around us, whether it's in your work, in, the broader community as a whole, or even globally. But the cool thing is this concept of like learning, unlearning, and relearn is not new. Adam Grant wrote about this in the 2021 book, Think Again. It's a great read if you haven't already read it, or even just get his TED Talk online. But the interesting thing about this is Alvin Toffler, who is a futurist, wrote about this concept back in 1970 with this concept of future shock, which is really when you're in a space that is moving very quickly or feels overwhelming, people tend to get into that kind of fight, flight, or freeze state where it's like, wait a minute, there's too much. I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to proceed. And then it kind of shuts us down where we're just like, I'm just going to ignore it and pretend it's going away. Or we get into the fight of like, this is not for me. I'm not going to do it. I don't care about it. I'm resistant to learning. But it is interesting to see that this is a concept that we've been thinking about since like early, like pre-technology. So even when we're thinking about what this means is like back in 1970, like we were in a space like in that near future for them of the internet coming out and becoming a broadly accessible tool for everyone. So we have gone through something like this in the past where it's like there's this new tool that is going to be widely impactful to everyone. How do we navigate it? We can do it again, and there's some things we'll talk about that'll help us get there.
So think AI. That's the new tool, right?
Yep.
Overwhelming everyone. That's the conversation topic. There's fear. Will it replace me? There's unknown. How do I use it right now? Can we use it in our offerings to our customers or our internal constituents? How? Yeah, there's so many questions and it's changing so quickly. What's your role in it as a tech leader, and why should you care? Learning culture. Why do you care? What you care about is what your people will care about. If you don't care about skill development, they won't prioritize it either. If you bring it up more than once, they're going to start doing it. So that's where the learning culture comes in for you. Your people watch you. They care what you think because you're the one signing their check. So if you make it a priority, if the culture is, oh, you're watching a video, you're wasting time. It must be a cat video. Then they're not going to do skill development at work, right? And so that's just an example. Right. And this future
Exactly.
shock, we're there. We're there right now.
Exactly. I think a lot of people are in that kind of fight, flight, or freeze state where it's just the options are almost limitless. I think that's almost our problem is we've gone from that space of like your options are very limited. You know, if you're at a P2 at this level, all you can do is move up to here. You know, you got to do 25 to life, move up that career ladder, do your time in your role, and maybe you'll get to the top. Now it's almost like, well, if you don't like this, there's 20 other options you can take, but which one's the right one? And honestly, there is no right or wrong answer. So that makes it very challenging for people. Um, so also, yes, like Dave, great segue. Why does the learning culture matter? Part of it is really that future readiness. So even if AI is not top of mind, if it's not a huge priority for you today, maybe it's not something that the business or, you know, your organization is pushing down to you, there's still this component of how do we continuously stay ready for whatever the future holds? And part of that is when you have that learning culture, like Dave said, where it's okay to take the time to learn, where you're spending some time developing your skill set, whether it's a technical skill set of, hey, I need to get better around like some security tools, or it could be something about, I just want to be a better presenter. I want to be able to communicate more effectively. Taking the time to be future ready is something that we can all focus on. Also, part of this is how do you manage the pace of change? So, part of the overwhelm for a lot of folks is everything is moving at a pace that feels deeply unsustainable. It feels like you're being forced to make a lot of decisions quickly. You don't have all of the information or the answers. Again, back in the day where, you know, you could get a job or you could go to school, get a job, work 25 to life at a company and know that you could pay for your family, you could afford a car, you could have kids, and you could have pets. Like now it's like, well, is the school important? Yes or no. Is this important? It's really hard to understand. So, managing the pace of change, especially as a leader, is really important to how people will experience the workplace and how committed and motivated they'll be to take new things on. So, specifically looking at this, like from a neurobiological standpoint, our ability as humans to adapt kind of moves linearly. It's bit by bit over time. You know, we get smarter, we get faster, we have more tools available to us to be more effective and efficient. But technology is an exponential change. It moves so fast. Literally, we're getting to the point where physically we can't keep pace with how quickly technology is changing. So if you're in that situation or your team members are in that situation of this just feels impossible, you're absolutely not alone. There are things that we can do to help people get there and to overcome this, but it's a lot.
People feel like they need to be because they're technologists, they need to be expert at everything, and that is a very normal feeling. And what has to happen is that practitioners they have to be practically good at knowing how to navigate the space. What skills do they need at what levels? I don't need to know everything, but I need to be able to use Excel to this point, and I needed to use AI a little bit, and that balancing that is different for every role. So what's your role in it? Helping them clarify and simplify all of that complexity by just being a little bit specific, a little more specific, directive. This is what I care about. This is what our team needs. Here's where we're going. We might need skills in this area. You're going to go out and develop all the skills that you want for your passion projects, but don't get overwhelmed here. Here's where we're going. Yeah.
Exactly. Um, And again, talking about AI, integrating AI, AI is really one of those tools that amplifies and accelerates. But if you don't have the skills and capabilities to understand how to effectively use it or why you're using it can create actually more chaos, more confusion, and more problems for you in the long run. I think the foundation for everyone, again, whether AI is priority one today or priority one in 2026, there are foundational things that we need to consider about how do we support people in being ready. So if or when this is something that hits, their specific body of work, that people can feel ready to take that on and understand what that means for them. And the impact of learning on teams. So a lot of people, again, like in the past, it used to be you could just turn to your learning and development team or to your HR people or somebody else, maybe it's a chief operations officer to say, hey, like learning and culture is on you. I'm just going to follow whatever you roll out. I'll send people to whatever you're creating. But nowadays, like there's this investment. If I invest in my team, I'm also investing in myself as well as the business. When you create a culture of learning, you get more motivation, you get more buy-in, you get people willing to take on and do more because they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. It actually supports, better engagement and retention, which who doesn't want that? Like, I want my team to be highly engaged, so I know that they're doing all the things that matter to us. It improves performance and productivity. So at the end of the day, if I'm being held accountable for the work my team does, I want them to be top performers. I want them to be doing well because that reflects positively on me as a leader. Also strengthening team cohesiveness. As much as we want, to be a part of our teams and to be really important to supporting them, there is this huge value in when they can also be self-sufficient and support each other. That's when you get to go on vacation and feel good about, the team's going to keep running. It's going to be okay. They know who to talk to. They know how to keep this moving. And it can give you some freedom too to focus on the things that are more important to your next step in your career. And also, again, fostering that sense of purpose and belonging, especially with the newer generation that's coming up into the workforce. It's really important for them to feel like they are part of that bigger picture, that what they're contributing is meaningful. And it's as simple as giving them a path forward that can be the thing that makes them feel like, this is where I want to stay. I want to be here versus, meh, maybe I'm going to check out and maybe I'm going to watch that cat video.
Great point. And I like the point of innovation too. And innovation
Yeah.
is inspired when they feel safe to practice and play. And they have a place to practice and play. That's a little plug for Pluralsight. We give them a tool that makes it easy to learn and gives them a place to practice and play when they feel safe and allowed to learn things that maybe aren't specific to their role. And as tribes, you're used to having people that have to wear a lot of hats. So making them stay in a lane is not usually what your problem is. They're all over the place because they have to do a lot of different things. We've got a small teams managing a lot of things, but there's a lot of technology adoption that's still on the horizon. We're still doing a lot of the old methods. So giving them the ability to practice and play in the new, where you don't have the new available to them, a huge benefit to them because now they can follow passion projects, play with things that aren't available, and say, hey, this might be something we want to bring in. Look at what we can do. Yeah.
Exactly. Using those labs and sandboxes, or if you've got your own kind of sandbox environment, like giving them the ability to test and play and fail in somewhere that is not going to take everything down with them is so important because you never know who might just dig in, try one sandbox, and suddenly they're becoming your AI expert because they loved the experience. It is really amazing when they have spaces again to be safe and to try those things. Um, so three key elements. So when we've looked at all of our research, both internally as Pluralsight and the research that I'm looking at across kind of other experts, other consultancies, other organizations, there are three key things that kind of boil down to as a leader, how do you start to create this learning environment that's going to be effective for you and your team? Part of it really starts with leadership. And Dave mentioned this earlier. It's that if you don't care, if you don't support it, if you're not doing it, they're not going to do it either. Again, it's that concept of, if you are the person that signs their check, that determines whether they get a bonus, determines whether they get a promotion, if there is a different priority, regardless of what that is, they are going to follow that first. Learning will always be something that people can say, oh, that's a tomorrow me problem, which becomes a never me problem. And then you have people who don't have the skills to actually just do their jobs. At the pace of technology change, honestly, it's one of those things you can't leave it until tomorrow, or you're going to continuously fall behind. And unfortunately, with AI, is you will fall behind so quickly, it will become almost impossible to keep up. So part of it is like companies or organizations need to invest in their leaders to make sure you have the support that you need. And if you're not getting it from, your boss or somebody else, like look outside. Is there a community-based leadership opportunity that you can get in to learn some of these things? Are there networking groups that are online where you can connect with other leaders and learn from what they're doing? But part of it is like, how do you upskill yourself so you can be really effective? And then how do you turn around and upskill and work with your team to ensure that they have the skills, the coaching, and the support to be able to advance their skills as well?
I will say the most psychological safety I've felt in a job is when my boss is asking me what I've learned lately
Mhm.
because he's learning or she's learning, right? And I feel encouraged to learn because they're doing it and they think to bring that up in one-on-ones. What have you learned lately? What do you like? And it starts to become, oh, not only psychological safety, but a reminder, yeah, I need to do that. I want to do that. So great.
Mhm. Well, and it's also true because, like, when they're asking what you've learned, it shows that mutual respect of, like, I'm not just here to tell you what to do. I'm also here to learn from what you're experiencing. I want to know what's, happening in your day to day. It can open that door to better conversations, better feedback. Really great point. And also, look, communication is the next thing. That open door to communication is really important. But part of this also goes back to what Dave said earlier is we need to be clear and explicit about what matters to our people and what matters to our business. It's really easy to just say, hey, like people will figure it out. Somebody's gonna, people are smart enough. It's like, yes, people are smart. And we still need to be able to help them understand, like, where are we going organizationally? What is the priority for us? And even if people have kind of got those high level things, it's like, well, what does that mean for me, for my team, for the people around me? I find it's always more helpful to be like super clear and explicit. And even then, somebody is still inevitably not going to understand it. So, doing our best to make sure that we're funneling down communications effectively is such a huge lever that leaders can pull.
And just to that point, just give an example. If your team is very hands-on, they focus all on managing servers, for example, in a GUI in a window environment, but you're moving to the cloud, you know that, and you need to make sure they have the skills to move to the cloud. Well, how many people are using PowerShell? Let's find that out. If no one's using PowerShell, you don't know how to script. You don't know how to manage a server in a script. That's You're not ready for Linux. You're not ready for cloud. Our team's not ready to move. So just something explicit and communicate. We need to build our PowerShell skills and our managing servers with scripts skills. Let's work on that together. Here's a team. Let's do it together. That's clarity. That's direction. That's communication. You're getting involved just a little bit. You're not telling them what everything they need to learn, but you are being specific and involved in their tech skill development. At least let them know which things matter to the mission of the team, what things are going to push us forward, what things are critical. Communication.
Yep, exactly. And the last thing is change management. So technology change is actually culture change. What we're finding out in implementing these things like cloud, like AI, is part of the battle is the behavior shift and the mindset shift of going from I know exactly what to do and exactly what order to make the technology work to now again, the sky is the limit with technology. There is not only one way to do any given tasks. So how do I understand and assess like what matters the most? How do I start to shift into whatever the new world and that future looks like for your teams? And making sure that we're helping people think through and navigate. We don't want people stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze space. We want them to say, hey, we fully understand that this is scary. It's a lot. We don't have 100% of the answers, but we can do this together. Like, how can we come along together to make sure we're still moving forward in some way versus sitting back and saying, like, I'm just going to wait till somebody else figures that out? Because at this point, we're all trying to figure out most of this together. So how do you make learning a priority? We all get it as a leader myself, like there is so much work that has to be done just to keep things running and just to keep things moving forward. So figuring out how to prioritize upskilling and reskilling can be a real challenge, especially if it's not something that you and your team are used to doing. So one of the things that you can do is think about where do you want to focus? Again, get explicit about what are the skills we want to prioritize. Make sure that people have a clear understanding what's in it for me. Like if I do this, is it going to help with, career advancement? And it never has to be one for one. Like every company we talk to is like, well, I don't want them to do this learning and then assume they're getting a promotion. It's like, well, great, tell them that. Tell them like these are the things that you need to be prepared so that when there is a need for this next level, for this new role, that you'll be best positioned to apply for that opportunity. Most of the time, there is a gap between learning and doing and whatever that next step is for them. But that's just a clarity issue. Again, communicating clearly and letting people know that, like, yeah, I can't guarantee you the promotion, but I also can guarantee you that if you don't do the work, that promotion's probably not going to happen. Like helping people understand what that looks like is really important and creating that space for them to learn so that they can figure out, is the next step just the level up or, hey, do I want to maybe move on to this other team or into this other type of role? Because that's what my future holds for me.
But the what's in it for me, I just want to touch on that.
Mhm.
That creates a learning culture when you are clear on what skills or abilities are required for the role that will make them successful in the role. And then also they feel like they get some reward for doing it. That reward does not have to be money. It could be recognition. It could be public recognition, it could be private recognition, it could be an attaboy or a good job or but if they get recognized for doing skill development. They're going to do more of it, even if it's not a pay raise for it. But when you say explicitly, here's the levels of your role and here's the things required at each level, that's also clarity and focus. So whether you have that ability or not, or that clarity isn't relevant. The point is some focus and some attention to what's in it for them.
Mhm.
They're not going to just do it to be obedient, just because of what Heather mentioned earlier as well. Some of them have a lot of resistance to learning new culture, new content. They just want to keep doing what they already know because it makes them feel valid and relevant. And learning the new makes them feel irrelevant and gives them all sorts of psychological fears and imposter syndrome and everything else, right? So we want to make them feel safe because we help focus what and tell them why they should care.
Exactly. And finding out how they want to be recognized. Like you said, Dave, it's so important because some people want the kudos in front of the big bosses and everybody else. And for somebody else on your team, that's going to be mortifying to be called out
Yeah.
in like an all hands or a team town hall meeting. So finding out, like, what do they value? For some people, literally that really personalized message. I saw you do X. That really makes me feel this way. Super appreciate you. That's going to be more meaningful than being on stage in some big meeting that they don't want to be on stage for. And for other people, it might be like maybe they really want that swag, that cool mug, that something else that somebody has, If you're working with a learning vendor or if you've got some company or organizational swag, like pull some of that stuff out. Or even if it's maybe it is a small little bonus. Maybe somebody does something big and it's a $25 gift card to, you know, some restaurant that they really love. Again, personalize it as much as possible. Um, which actually this ties into the experience of it all. Part of upskilling and reskilling and making it something that's enjoyable and part of kind of the culture of what you're building is making the experiences something that's not just go off and learn by yourself and then come back and tell me what you learned. Can you integrate that kind of multimodal learning, pair programming, group learning, cross-functional learning, also like celebrating like the behavior change? Again, for some folks, it might be like, cool, you just watched a couple courses that help your development. You've got to acknowledge that first step and help them see that, like, you're seeing it, that you're seeing that they're making an effort, even if it's not like the big picture change. Like, if they're taking a step towards it, you've got to keep encouraging them to keep going in that direction. And again, like Dave and I have talked about this, is like talk about that learning progress in those one-to-ones in your development conversations. If folks know that you're investing in them, they're going to invest in what's going on around them because they want to take advantage of that. They want to see that if they put the effort in, it's going to result in something for them too. And the last thing is the big elephant in the room of time. Every company I talk to, their biggest barrier is, well, we don't have time. We're busy. And it's like, yes, I understand that. We are all busy. My recommendation is figure out how do you fit this into the flow of work that you're already doing? Is it just adding a pre or post mortem onto the existing processes you have? Is it integrating learning into your sprints, into the development sprint to make sure that there's dedicated time for it? It might be even just using cross training. So again, that idea, we're all wearing a lot of hats, especially at small organizations. Maybe it's the cross training opportunity of saying, okay, I need a backup in the skill set. Can we get people working together to cross train? That gives them a great opportunity to get to know somebody else, to learn a new skill set. It helps you because then you've got backup coverage. But again, it's not like everything around learning doesn't have to be I'm going to pull you out and go send you to a thing to learn for 8 hours in a day. It could be also maximizing, again, company, community opportunities. And also, I just want to acknowledge like learning debt will always amplify your technical debt. So if you don't spend the time to at least start to build the habits that are necessary for learning, eventually that will catch up to you in your inability to actually maximize the technologies you're using, which then creates a negative ROI on both your tech talent and your technology investments.
I want to bring up something that you reminded me of, and that is that learners, the leaders are often saying, "Well, if I develop my people, they'll leave. I don't want to give them all these opportunities outside their job tasks to learn, because then they'll just build their resume and leave." So that's one side of the spectrum. The other side is I don't ever develop my people, and they don't get better, and pretty soon I have to pay consultants to do their jobs because they can't do the work that I need. So if you don't train them, they won't leave. But if you don't train them, why would you want them to stay? So there's this dichotomy. You really have to give them time to skill up. You have to prioritize it because you need them to be valuable to your organization. And even if they leave, they are going to speak high praise of you and this organization and make it easier for you to recruit. So we've seen the opposite is true. Focusing on skill development is always beneficial to the organization. Way more. You get a net benefit when you focus on that.
Totally. And I think it was McKinsey did this study a while back, and it's particularly for like early career folks, investing in their learning, especially in that early career phase, actually makes them significantly more likely to stay with your organization because they feel valued, they feel seen, they feel invested in. So you can actually amplify your investment of not only having highly capable people, but the likelihood that they're going to stay and go from, frontline employee to frontline team leader to maybe a team manager role. Like that's going to create that continuity for you to be able to help grow those people. And again, like then whenever they do decide to leave, they're your raving fan of like, hey, I got my start here. Like this is where you want to start too. And it makes a huge difference. So if you're not sure what skills to even focus on, because again, I get it, technology moves fast. Everybody's at a different place on what's relevant to you. World Economic Forum and then Pluralsight as well has actually kind of captured what's generally the fastest growing technologies or the skills that you should focus on learning. So even if you start with something like this and say, okay, out of these two lists, what's relevant to my team? What are we using? Maybe you are already using SQL and Python and you're just like, let's double down there. Let's upskill some people in this. Let's focus on something we know is relevant to today's work. And then we'll start thinking about some of these other things. Or maybe you're in a more advanced position where you're like, we've got this locked in. The day to day is great. What can we do next? Maybe it is, again, like Dave said, that transition into the cloud. It's that thing into what do I need to know to do agentic AI? And again, giving some people, and also this is a thing you can leverage as that point of, maybe there isn't a promotion available yet, but maybe you can give somebody the stretch assignment that lets them kind of prove out, are they ready for that next opportunity? So letting them lead out and be like, you're going to explore agentic AI, you're going to play with it, you're going to try to apply it to something here, you're going to bring me back your findings. Like giving people a stretch assignment that can let them prove out, like, I've got the leadership capabilities, I can collaborate, I can bring people together. That's honestly a safe way for you to let people explore, are they ready for that step? Because sometimes people find out when they have to do that work, they're like, I actually hate this. I don't want to do it. And then it saves them from moving into a management role when really they're like, I just actually wanted to develop more and better tech skills and continue on an individual contributor path. So the next thing that I want to cover is really like, what does this mean for you as a leader in the age of AI? Like, what are the skills that are really going to be most critical for you? Because also, like, we want to invest in your growth and development because, again, leaders are really the amplifiers of everything else that happens in the organization. They amplify culture, they help support people understanding. Um, Senior leaders can always do so much to get the message down and to get people to buy in, but really it is our leaders on the ground who most can actually make those things happen. So one of the key skills that we're seeing leaders are going to need to develop if they don't already have them is prioritization. How do you help people cut through the noise? How do you start deprioritizing stuff that does not matter? And how do you actually get comfortable with making decisions that might not result in what you hope? And it's this concept of like reversible decisions, being able to evaluate, like, if I do this thing and it fails, what's the cost to me? Of course, there's a people cost, like a sunk cost that's going to happen, but like financially, is it something that you could flip a switch back and recover from? If so, we've got to get comfortable making those decisions and being able to play in those spaces of trying things that are new and seeing what happens. Because if not, we never advance, we never grow. And collaboration.
And oh,
So,
real quick, and we
yeah.
when we do that on a small scale, we protect ourselves from large scale projects that go out of scope and fail miserably, which is, by the way, the default for AI. There are so many projects at organizations globally that are failing. But that's the majority of it because they dream big and they implement big and they don't have the skills to support these implementations. So let your team implement small. Let your team implement creatively and do these reversible decisions on the smaller scale so you're ready for the big ones.
Exactly. And part of that is like this collaboration piece is like you've got to build the relationships that help you collaborate because when you start with these little AI pilots or cloud pilots, it's like if you don't have the relationships to be able to say like this is going down the wrong path, we need to pull the plug and stop, like you get into that kind of sunk cost fallacy of like, but we've gone so far, let's just see it through. No, at this point, we've got to get comfortable being like, this is not going anywhere. It is not delivering value, or it's not actually aligning to the business metric that we're hoping to impact. Pull the plug. The last thing you want is egos to be involved where people are like, but I put my name on this, so we're going to deliver it, or else we've got to get okay with being like, we tried and here's what we learned, but we're giving up on this thing for right now. So collaboration, it's also understanding as a leader, do you understand the up and downstream impact of the work that you're doing and the changes that you're making? So again, when you're talking about like these small pilots of change and small tests, is like you can know and have deep expertise in the thing that you're trying to pilot. But if you don't also then consider, well, what does this mean for the people who are above my process and below my process? It's either going to start bottlenecking in one direction or you're going to create chaos. Like if you change your whole process and then QA has to look at it and go like, what is this? It's going to cause problems for you and for everyone else. We've got to be able to think broader than our current scope of work. Also cross-functionally. So some of this stuff, especially around AI, is I need to not only understand my body of work, but I actually need to understand the business. What matters to the business? What are the things that I can impact? And how do I actually show value from what I'm doing to what is our top line business goals? And part of that falls into that contextualization is being able to understand, is this relevant? Is this accurate? Like when I use AI or something else, like the information that I'm getting back, is this something that matters to us? Do I need to be able to change it, modify it, or throw it in the garbage because it's actually not what I'm looking for? Our ability as leaders to contextualize and say, okay, the org wants this. This is what it means for you is the fastest way to get people on board and to start to remove that fear and ambiguity of, oh my gosh, what does this mean to me? What's next? And knowledge sharing, again, like that space of like when we help people grow, we help them feel a sense of belonging, we help them feel invested in, we help them grow in the ways that matter to us. Yes, people will always leave, but being able to also share that knowledge, so like having your senior, engineers, your senior leaders collaborating with people who are newer in their career, people who are just starting it out, that mentoring and reverse mentoring opportunity is huge to make sure you're not missing something that would be like catastrophic down the line if we're not considering it. Also building your thought partnership, like who are you connecting with outside of your space that knows more than you, or maybe is coming up behind you where you can share ideas and help people out. And then the social aspect of learning is like, you don't have to do this alone. You don't need to be sitting in your house, like figuring it out yourself. A lot of times it can be like find somebody who's in a similar space and say, hey, do you want to work on this together? I'd love to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. Or when you get stuck, to have somebody who can help you walk through it. And the last thing is interpersonal skills. Everything around AI, cloud transformation, digital transformation, it moves at the speed of trust. And it's one of those like underrated things because it's hard to quantify. Like trust is really, really hard to quantify. Even if you do, employee net promoter score kind of stuff, employee surveys, trust is one of those things that it either exists or it doesn't. And I guarantee you it exists and it doesn't on a spectrum. So just because I trust my leader, like I will follow you into battle every single time, I might not feel the same about my skip level or my C-suite or somebody else. But everything that we're doing now, I think in the future, especially around technology, will move at the speed of trust and psychological safety. So it's really important for leaders to think about what that means and how you cultivate that.
I love those last two just mentioned, trust and psychological safety. If you don't have the trust of your team, they will listen to you and nod, and then they will hide under a rock and do what they want. And the
Yep.
psychological safety too, they will not touch anything that they feel is going to get them in trouble. So if they feel like they could be judged by this, or you're punitive in your methods, or you're looking for people that are not doing their job so you can get them in trouble, that's going to create a culture of hide and pretend instead of experiment and fail safely and work in a safe environment. The other thing I noticed is all of these things you're mentioning here are also the value of humans over AI. So
Mhm.
it's not just your value and why you're never going to be replaced by AI, but all of your team's value as well. They need these skills just as much. And we do, and even though we're a tech skills development platform, we actually cover all of this content as well. This is critical to technology. We don't try to boil the ocean and teach everybody anything like so many other platforms. But we do focus on the soft skills that matter, especially to technologists. And so the interpersonal skills are huge for a technology leader. Often you tech leaders came from being a technologist yourself. A lot of technologists get into technology to avoid talking to people. And when they find themselves in a leadership role, they're not totally prepared for emotional intelligence, for example. And giving people a safe environment, helping them feel trusted. You focus too much on the granular details, you're not as good at the big picture. And that's what you've got to move to when you move to leadership. These leadership principles make you different from AI, make you invaluable, and they make your people that invaluable too. So this is just as important. Okay.
Totally. And it's true. Having these types of skills will number one differentiate you from other leaders. So it helps increase your value too. And also, it's going to be one of those things like the higher you go in an organization, the more these things will be at play. Sometimes, like if you've ever been in a position where you've heard, like, you're not quite ready for that promotion, you lack, a little bit of that business acumen, the strategic, acumen. If you've ever heard something like that, it probably ties back to this. You're not effectively communicating your point of view, you're not tying to strategy and business goals. What I'm hearing most often from other experts too, and I'm seeing it myself, is business needs to speak the language of tech and tech needs to speak the language of business. The people who can translate that the fastest and most effectively will move forward faster than people who can't.
Unicorns. Make yourself a
Exactly.
unicorn. Be able to do that.
Exactly. But it's also that space. Like, if you are getting the feedback, like you're not ready for the next step because you lack business acumen, leadership skills, like it probably literally ties back to this, that unicorn skill set of I'm really great at what I do technically, and I can also bring people together around the things that we want to do. It's influence. So the last thing we want to share is a resource that you'll get to take away to actually help you start to reflect on all of these concepts and figure out what matters most to you now and where you want to get started. I'd also say if you've got any questions at this point, feel free to throw them in the chat. I think there's a Q&A button too that you can use because Dave and I will also be happy to take any questions. But real quick, what this looks like, and you'll get a whole document afterwards that talks about like a little bit more detail on this. But what we've put together is this learning culture report card. It's got these critical elements to creating a learning culture, and it gives you the opportunity to sit down and reflect and say, well, okay, for time to learn, like I think I'm, maybe I'm moderately effective because I do give people permission to learn. I've given them access to some tools and, I tell them it's important, but maybe there's still some opportunity to contextualize, to get more specific. Or it could be something like psychological safety. Maybe you're an exceptional leader in this space. Your team trusts you. Anything that you ask, they're going forward and making it happen. So you're checking, extremely effective. The idea of something like this is not that this is the end all be all, but that this is a snapshot in time to help you assess, like, where am I at and where should I focus to start moving forward? Again, everything is getting more complex. It's moving faster. So sometimes just being able to narrow it down to, okay, I'm going to focus on cross-functional collaboration. Q1, that's my priority as a leader. I'm going to start bringing in other people. I'm going to start working with other people. I'm going to just make an effort to get to know other folks. Again, this is meant to be something that can help you navigate what's next. How do I make it through this myself?
I absolutely love this, Heather, because it is what I care about most is what can you leave this conversation and implement in your life? If we talk about these principles and concepts that are kind of just almost ethereal, just over your head, you're like, that sounded cool. I was really inspired, but I have no idea what to do next. We want you to walk away and say, okay, I get it now. Learning culture does start with me, regardless of what the organization's culture is. If I want my team to learn, if I don't make it a priority or provide them time to learn, or give them feedback when they do learn, or making skill, creating skill priorities. These are the things you care about, or focusing on psychological safety. It's so nice to walk away from this conversation and see a little list of things to remind me. These are the points of the culture change that I can influence, and I can look at just self-assess. Where do I think I'm at? And then I've basically helped myself with prioritization. I could see what is the most important for me to start working on right now, and it helps also to remind me all the different categories of what I can do to affect the culture. So I'm reminded of the categories. I give myself a scorecard, and I can prioritize what I should work on first, and weave it into my work. And just know that anything I do for this is not just a nice to have. It's going to absolutely change the culture of my team, make people want to stay, make them happier here, make turnover slower, speed up people's onboarding, create a culture where they want to stay and increase innovation, increase employee satisfaction. Anything you do on this page is going to do those things. So walk away knowing that this takeaway is going to help your life, help your organization, and help your people. And it's something it's totally on your shoulders, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible.
Exactly. And really what that looks like is, again, take the time to assess, find somebody to kind of talk about this and soundboard with, and then identify like one thing. Again, like it's going to be the list and you can kind of tack it up somewhere where you can see it and slowly kind of make progress on things. But just find that one thing, like what would make the biggest difference for you and your team, and just start there. Again, it's not about perfection. It's not about having a 5-year plan. It's about, based on this, is there literally one thing that I can do next week, tomorrow, today, to start making that transition and change? If you happen to have things like ENPS data or other data, you can start to collaborate. Like if you do 360 reviews, or if you've got a year-end review process, it could be the opportunity to, even if you just ask people, like, what do you want to learn in 2026? Like, it doesn't have to be a big grand gesture. It could literally be like, hey, we're doing year-end reviews. Let's just add one question to just open the door and see where it goes. You might be pleasantly surprised by what people bring and they want to discuss.
Love that.
Um, Also, the other thing that, like Dave, what you were talking about brought up for me is also like there are so many people in this market right now that want the opportunity to grow with the company. I've talked to so many people that are like, if I just had this much of an opportunity to grow, I'm staying. I'm going nowhere.
Yeah.
They want this. People are asking for this. So again, that retention piece is huge. And it's going to
That's
help
the
you.
number one top question that is on every employee feedback survey.
Yeah.
Can you provide more training?
Yeah.
I need more training. I need more encouragement to be able to be allowed to train. I think that's what they're really saying. Not to give me another tool. They're saying, give me permission to train, make it part of my life, and prioritize it so I can get better. Because if I don't get that, I'm going to leave. And when I get that, surprisingly, I don't leave. Well, you'd think that giving them the training opportunities mean they'll get better and they won't want to be with you anymore. It's not true. It's the opposite's true. So it's awesome.
It's true. Actually, what we found is like it's kind of like everything. There's a standard deviation of like people. There's always going to be your people at the top, your rock stars who literally are just like, I am in it to win it. In 2 years, I'm bouncing to the next bigger, better thing. But
Right.
it's a small fraction of people. The
Yeah.
majority of people in your organization would love to be with you. I've talked to so many people in the last couple of years that are like, I want to find my 7 to 10 year company next. They don't want to be job hopping. They don't want to
Yeah.
have to keep searching. So many people are literally like, if I just can find a place that will value me and develop me, they're like, I would like to stay 7 to 10 plus years. So there's a huge opportunity right now, I think, for organizations who are willing to create that space to get talent that literally wants to grow with you and go in the direction you're going.
I have a question on that
Yeah.
actually. Have you seen any difference in someone's view of that based on their, age range? You hear a lot about the different people who are in the workplace right now. I mean, I can't remember what I'm called, but I'm 50, so whatever that, range is. And then there's people even above me, and then like 3 or 4 below me, and we're all in the same, like we're all in the same working environment. You know what I mean? So does that have any difference or effect on this and how they view some of this training?
Hmm. Totally. Yeah, we're at an interesting point right now where there's like up to like 5 different generations in the workplace. So, like you said, the boomers
Mhm.
are ahead of you, you're Gen X, I'm like elder millennial. Then you've got like your Gen Zers, your Gen Alphas are coming up way, way later in the picture.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is overall, like yes, people receive this information differently, so you do have to kind of cater the message, but at
Mm-hmm.
most people's core, and again, there will always be exceptions. There's always somebody who's coming in at both ends of the spectrum who's like, I
Right.
just want to do my job, do not bother me, leave me alone, I just want my paycheck.
Yeah.
For most people, like we are inherently wired to want to learn, to want to grow. It's just part of
Yeah.
human nature. So for most people, whether you're, 20 years old, maybe you're still in college, maybe you never went to college and you're just getting in the workforce, or you are somebody who's, millennial Gen X who's like, I just want to make a difference at this point in my career. People want
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to grow and to give back. So we tell people like also like your learning programs and things should be differentiated. Maximize your older workforce for to like support the younger workforce. You will hurt so much if you let all of your older workforce walk out when they retire or,
Yeah.
whatever, and everybody at the bottom has no clue why or what you're doing up top. Like
Mm-hmm.
have those people start reverse mentoring or mentoring people, have them information share. Like again, it seems most humans get to that later phase of life where they're like, I just want to have an impact. I want to make the world better. Use these folks to make your org better. And for the young folks who are like, give me everything. I want to do it because I want to make a difference. Again, same thing. They want to make a difference. They're coming at it different ways. To me, the worst thing you can do is look at your younger generation and go, you don't know enough. You just need to sit down and wait your turn. You will squash all creativity and innovation, and you will
Yeah.
never get that back.
Yep.
And similarly, the silver tsunami, as we call it in government, this the huge, overwhelming populace of people that are ready to retire today. They literally could have retired 3 years ago. Why have they
Mm-hmm.
not? They love what they do. They would love to be
Yeah.
valuable. They do actually learn continuously. They don't want to be overwhelmed and scared because you're forcing them to learn something they don't want to learn and they don't know how or at a pace that they can't do. But they love learning and they love being that value to the organization that is critical. If they feel
Mm-hmm.
valued, they will stay. They will stay as long as they can. It's
Mm-hmm.
what drives people away is stress that makes them feel they're not valued. They're not good enough. They're not fast enough. They're not the whatever. Anything that feeds that imposter syndrome that is present in every technologist. Anyone that touches technology just is sure that they are screwing it up. They just
Yeah.
they believe there's no way I know enough because you don't. But all of
Mm-hmm.
us don't know enough. That's not the point. If you feel valued and you feel valued by your leader and encouraged to learn, you are going to do it. You might learn a passion project that has seemingly no connection to your role, but it doesn't matter. If I'm supporting networking, but I'm over here developing websites on the side through AWS because it's fun, and my leader is encouraging that, you're encouraging skill development at whatever pace they want. That creates not just the innovation and the tools that you need in the future. It creates the respect, the feeling of I'm valued, and that keeps people. And you don't,
Mm-hmm.
not people staying in the role doing nothing or doing the same thing. You can't think that way. Even if they're doing the same thing, is it still a task you need? And if they don't learn as fast as others, does it matter if they're learning skills that others can't learn? These senior members of our team have the baseline skill set that the young people are just learning. They're learning an element higher that isn't being learned. So yeah, absolutely. There's so many different modalities, so many different
Yeah.
personalities, but the cultural, I mean, so the generational complexities and benefits are huge to the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that benefit of it. That's a good way, of putting that in the way that you kind of put that together. And I just want we have actually two more questions before we take off here. And I know you kind of talked about this a little bit more, but I liked how you were talking it and just wanted to maybe expand on it a little bit if you could, but how to frame the like when you're maybe assigning a learning task to somebody and how to get them to really like buy into it and to enjoy it and understand this isn't just a task that you have to check off your box every Monday and Wednesday from 9 to 10 you have to do a learning development whatever, but to make them like understand like this is going to like help you, it's going to do this and this, like how do just maybe some other examples or even just one example of how you've seen that something really creative been done and you like a use case, I guess, if you have anything like that to share.
Do you want to go
I,
first,
I
Dave? Or
yeah, I want to say where there's no vision, the people perish, right? If you give your children the difference between work, the definition of work in a child's mind is doing a bunch of stuff I don't want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
The definition of work to someone who's working on a passion project is all of the steps to get to where I want to go, this exciting end, right? So when your
Mm-hmm.
team sees the vision of why you're asking them to do that. You give them a little bit of the why. Hey, I want
Mm-hmm.
you to learn. Why? Because I want you to get better. Why? Because I want you to enjoy your job. Because I want you to
Yeah.
work better with others. Give them more of the why. Give them the big picture. Help them see it. So then it's not just work. It's fun. And that's the difference between work and fun is vision. So we need to
Mm-hmm.
help make sure people see the vision of what they're doing and why.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Totally. It really is about helping them see the potential for themselves. Because even if somebody doesn't want to necessarily, like, not everyone wants to be C-suite, not everyone wants to be a
Mm-hmm.
leader. Some people
Right.
just want to do their job and do it well. And helping
Mm-hmm.
them understand that part of that is this learning, this taking on new things. Some things that I've seen work really well for folks are like team driven learning. So part of it is like, and I do this in my team meetings, is one person on the team will own some sort of topic or a question and they get the opportunity to bring it to the team and discuss it. So some of my team has prepared a presentation and they walk you through the slides and then they have a discussion. Others are like, this is the question, let's talk about it. And they just throw the question
Mm-hmm.
into the team. But it gives people a space of number one, again, practicing that art of facilitating, of communicating, of bringing people together. It takes the onus off you as the leader. Like, I don't have to do all of these sessions. I have people who are signing up to pick a specific topic. I know that they've got this much time and they can bring it to the team. So that sometimes helps a lot is to make it kind of a team sport because then they're
Mm-hmm.
also seeing their peers model the behavior as well. So if you've got kind of a range of people, maybe some people who are highly experienced and newer, they can start to learn from each other on how they approach this. And part of it, honestly, is like you as a leader, like leading out first. Like I have seen
Mm-hmm.
other leaders in our organization do stuff, and I've literally gone, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I
Mm-hmm.
do that first? So
Yeah.
sometimes the biggest motivation is to see somebody else do something that is squarely in your space and go, ah, I could have done that. That could have
Yeah.
been me. And then you start thinking about, oh, wait, they did that. Could I build off it? Could I do the next
Mm-hmm.
level? Could I do something else? Part of it, again, is that behavior mindset shift of instead of feeling attacked that some other leader has done something that's in my space, is I see it as an opportunity. And I'm calling that guy up and being like, explain, tell me
Yeah.
more, tell me how I can build off of this. So it is like sometimes as a leader, you have to get a little lower out of your ego and be like, I want to know, like, you need to help me with this because you're clearly
Yeah.
going somewhere important.
Yeah. That's great. Awesome. I love it. We might have one more time for one more question. Kaylee, do you have one?
I do. I wanted to kind of circle back to the upskilling part of our webinar. Um, I know you had mentioned it, and I want to maybe have you explore more on how you can encourage tribes to invest time in getting their team members upskilled, even if they leave the organization or environment.
Do you want to kick it off, Dave?
Yeah. So again, encouraging your people to get upskilled even if they leave. Well, first of all, I don't know that the tribes I've spoken to have a lot of problem with turnover. Turnover doesn't seem to be historically that their biggest concern, but when people feel like you care about them, they are more likely to stay. And to Heather's point, there's that top percentage of people that were going to blow it up and leave no matter what you do. That's like under 5%. And it's great. The majority of people don't do training because they are overwhelmed with the job that at hand. So by encouraging them to skill up, by asking them to take time out of their busy day to do it, you're giving them permission to do what they'd already like to do, but they just don't feel like it. They have safety to do that. But the ones that leave are much smaller percentage than you think. I know it's not probably a top of mind for the tribes, but what we want to do is create a space where they want to stay, and that's the whole point. You can't control the fact that some people are going to leave, but don't take opportunities away from them to limit them further. That's just going to make them want to leave faster. So encourage everyone to learn and grow, and you're going to get the majority of people who want to stay just happier and want to stay more. And the ones who are going to leave, it might speed up their ability to leave. But again, that's under 5%. I really don't think, even in an organization that turns over fast, it's not because you provided them training resources why they left. They left because they don't like being here, or they want more money that you can't provide. That's really the number two, one and two reasons why they leave. They either need more money or they don't like working here. So make it a place they love to work. Make it a place they can. And I work with government, federal government and state. People don't work there because they make the most money. They know they can make more in the private sector. They work there because they like working there, they feel valued, and they feel on board with the mission. Now, whether people work for your tribe because they're landlocked and they're forced to work because it's a small town in the middle of nowhere and that's the opportunity for them or not, when they feel happy and encouraged to learn and grow, they are going to stay longer and become more than they thought they would have maybe even imagined for their role. Maybe they just thought, look, this is a job, I've got it. Now they start to develop themselves into something they'd never imagined, and they love it and they appreciate it, and they're still not going anywhere. And if they do, they're going to go out and evangelize to you. So I appreciate you giving that question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
I just say
Awesome.
ditto to that because I know we're at the end of time, but yes, everything Dave said, plus, plus, plus.
Yes, I was just going to say we're like right at time. So thank you, Heather and Dave, for your insight and for sharing. Anybody, if you'd like to get a hold of Heather or Dave, just reach out to us at contact us at tribalhub.com. We will absolutely make sure that you get connected. Make sure that you check your email tomorrow for the, my cat is like going to
I
jump
love
into
that your
this.
cat's right there.
I know. Look for the email tomorrow, and make sure to share that with anyone on your team who you think might really value from hearing this. So, with that, amazing conversation. Thank you so much, and we will talk to everybody soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.